What's up, guys? Hope you're having a wonderful day and or evening wherever you are in the world. Just got my teeth cleaned. Not exactly my favorite thing in the world, but you know, not a lot of things are, but you still have to do some stuff here and there. So, I've just been kind of thinking lately, I've always been a little bit different in a lot of ways. Um, I was never happy being, you know, another cog in the wheel. I always wanted something more out of life. I always wanted something greater, you know. And I was always inspired by art and, looking at creative works. I've always been a big comic book fan. Um, a huge fan of gaming in general. And, horror movies were a big part of my life very early in life. Um, you know, Apparently I was watching Night of the Living Dead at the age of 2 with my dad, you know, and different things like that. And I've always been kind of pulled in that more creative direction, you know. Uh, Even back with like Black Sabbath and stuff like that. I remember that was like my favorite thing when I was a kid. I've always been pulled into that more creative direction. If I had just had to work or be an accountant or a tax adjuster, like something like that, I'd off myself. Maybe take a few with me. But that's why I don't do that type of stuff, you know. And if you choose a creative path, you're gonna have a lot more pain, and you're gonna have a lot of hard and down times. But if there's one thing I truly believe in, it's that people who go through problems and think a bit differently than everyone else are the people that should really create the art or put something forth. Not saying I guess everyone can't create some type of art, but I feel there's a lot of people that have nothing to say in there, or they haven't experienced enough. I feel going through pain and heartache and sadness really makes you have something to say and appreciate things in a different way than if you had a quote unquote easy life, you know. And an easy life, like a silver spoon type life, can lead to, you know, not being happy in a lot of ways and not being well balanced. And, I'm a firm believer that going through some bullshit really can make you a better person and a more interesting human being. One thing about me, I'm more fascinated by what people have overcome and their down periods in life and, you know, the struggles people go through more than the achievement. The achievement at the end makes it grand. If someone has achieved something, then you hear what they had to go through and the periods, and you're like, I haven't done anything like that. Then you can kind of see where that person's character came from. Someone like Mike Tyson, think what you want about him, but he's one of my heroes. Just got done reading his audiobook. It was amazing. And like he wrote it, well, he didn't write it, but it was spoken, not by him. And but yeah, just hearing what he went through as a kid and just that environment, like robbing, and at such an early age being desensitized, you can totally see where he was coming from, needing, when he finally met a mentor such as Customato. That's another thing too. In our current world, I think there's a huge lack of mentors and a huge lack of um, rituals. And a lot of people hear the word ritual and they're like, what the fuck? Is this some like weird black metal shit? Are we occult stuff? No, nothing like that. And especially when you're in the metal space and when you wear medallions and like death metal and pentagrams, people always think you're like some like weird occultist or something. It's like, no, dude, I just like to smoke weed and lift weights and play video games. Sorry, but at the end of the day, you know, it is interesting. But I'm getting off track. Rituals were very important in our world. Like going as far back, something like Sparta. You know, um, Ritualistically engaging the men in warfare, creating stronger and stronger humans. You know, this has always been a thing that has been part of our societies until recently. In the past I don't know, however many hundreds of years, it's really disappeared. We don't have rites of passage. We don't have rituals. Like something that always fascinated me was Native Americans and like going on a spirit quest. Like a lot of times they would, when a kid was 12, they'd take him out of his comfortable home and wouldn't really tell him what was going on and let him go on make him go on like a journey alone or, guided by an elder. But, sometimes, I don't know if this is corroborated, but I've heard about, you know, drinking mushroom tea and then being left out in the woods. And, that's really terrifying to some people, but I've kind of put myself through an experience like that recently. And, all I found inside was inner growth. And there's a lot to be said of going through these rituals, right? Um, and we don't really have them anymore. Rites of passage, something being brought up in a certain way by a village elder or like a wise person that you can really trust to take you through these things. We really don't have that. So we have a lot of like emasculated men, I suppose, and rightfully so angry women. you know, if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to date most of these men. And, not to put myself on some big high pedestal, I'm no saint, I'm not perfect, but, you know, there's a lot of, you know, hatred for masculinity these days and demasculization. It's not, toxic masculinity is just a lot of times normal masculinity, just being, like a calm, assertive, leader is almost like frowned upon these days. And, it's a lot of it comes back to lack of a strong male figurehead in the family, right? You know, fathers not being there can do um, a lot of damage. And even fathers being there, but, not being exactly what you need can be just as damaging in itself. So, in my journey, I've found some pretty cool mentors along the way, at school and, teachers and other things like that, at the gym, boxing, things like that, or even close friends. But I think a lot of people get, kind of pulled in by maybe the wrong mentors. Something like a gang. Some people could never understand why people would join a gang, but just put yourself in that position. You have nothing. You're weak. You're alone. You're scared. And then there's this gang of people who are almost like-minded to you, and it's almost a warped version of what it should be, but they offer you safety and commonalities, right? You can believe in them, but usually those operate on a or a violence like value structure, right? Not exactly there for the right reasons. Monetary gain, more or less, power over anything else. And power has its place, but power pursuit in itself is just going to lead to destruction. So, people like Elliot Hulse have always been really important to me. Like, say what you will about him, he's a quack or whatever. I'm not going to say everything he says is great, but I wouldn't be the man I am today without him. And there's millions of other people that wouldn't agree with me. And he has like grounding camps specifically for men. And there's a lot of like women that would kind of be that are pissed off about that, and they think it's some kind of like weird cult or something. But there's lots of women only women only everything, women only gyms, women only areas at the gym, and I understand the reasoning for those, and I don't disagree with them. But it's just a weird time in the world where it's completely fine for women to get together and even openly talk about hatred for men in like third wave feminism. It's kind of pushed past the point of being equality into more like the opposite of what it used to be, pushing down on men to, rise up in the wrong ways, right? And that's just going to lead to, guys calling themselves male feminists. Like, what does that mean? You hate yourself? You hate men? Is that like a self-hating, like, I don't know, it's just very weird to me, How can you hate the body that you're in? How can you hate what you are? That can't be healthy, and this is the world we live in. there's a lot of lost people, and I'm not going to say that I'm not one of them, but there is certain things to be found out there, and I think having like a balanced structure in our life, you know, guided by because we don't have strong political leaders, we don't have people we can look up to in that way. Um, so you almost have to find them for yourself, you know, and it's not exactly the easiest thing. But I think with the advent of the internet and social media, there's a lot of negativity there and a lot of bad stuff, but there's a lot of good to be found too, and you can really connect with some good like-minded people. So you know I definitely believe it's important to have a return to almost like a ritualistic value structure, and but that will probably never happen. But I think it's important for every person to have a clearly defined value system, like a list of do's and don'ts that no matter what they cannot break, like a personalized like laws that you yourself have written out, that you yourself govern yourself by, that you are unwavering in. And I have these. You don't need to tell them to other people, you just need to know them for yourself. But a lot of people don't have these, and they can betray people easily and turn their backs on people easily. And it's a very weird thing, you know. And I think as a people, we all need to band together and rise up and stop dividing down the middle and really find some common ground, right? And I think a big thing that's missing there is that ritualistic coming of age that especially young men need. I'm not going to comment on young women because I'm not that. And I would just be shooting in the dark trying to comment on that. But I'm sure there's lots of women that would agree that they would prefer, a more grounded, masculine, like very strong man who's not just obsessed with having as much sex as possible and, actually is looking to build something reliable, because a lot of people, a lot of men especially, we all have like hormones, and a lot of time we're not really instructed on how to act on them properly and how to pursue a woman, or not come off as some bumbling little yes man to everything. I don't think any woman would say that they like that. Women like someone who's almost unattainable in a way. If it comes easy, they don't want it. And that's the same with me in my experience. If a woman's all over you for no reason, you're like, what's wrong with her? And I'm sure it's the same thing with men. But maybe we're getting a little bit off color here, but I was just having some thoughts, and there they are delivered. So hopefully I didn't offend anyone too badly with my calm words and rational thought, or at least I like to think that's rational. The world could use a lot more rational thought, but hey, who am I? Nobody. Anyways, have a wonderful day. Talk soon.